in right here.
Perfect. All right. Welcome back, guys. This is back to the pretty much the pod, the Insider Outsider podcast. I completely forgot the name of it. I just want to say hello to every single person. And yeah, and I'm just making sure that the video
Are we
is
live?
working. We are
Yeah.
live, yes. Well, I hope so. We're live.
Well, I'm just trying to find it here before we dive in.
Just make sure it's
And
actually
find it.
working.
Okay, it just
Awesome.
there
So
we go.
yeah, guys.
It
Well,
just-
yeah. Well, welcome back, guys. So yeah. So Ahmed, how's everything been? How's everything looking?
Um, a lot of stuff happening. Been you know been listening to a lot of professional and well understood people in geopolitics and economics, and I think there's a lot to talk about today.
Perfect. All right. We'll
Rav, what
start
do
us
you?
off. What do you think? What's the first topic?
Well, there's this great transition that is outlined by people from this YouTube channel I've been watching. A lot of professional, very high standard, high efficacy empiricism from Capital Cosm, and
Okay.
they talk about the great transition, where there's going to be basically instead of a globalized perspective on uh, the economic situation and geopolitics, there's going to be America because they've discussed how this move into Latin America, Venezuela particularly, is going to pan out. And what they're seeing is that there's going to be a shift from globalization to Western empires and Eastern empires,
Mm-hmm.
and so China will dominate its area, and then the U.S. will dominate its area, and they will be trading through the medium that they'll be trading through is like the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're saying is that, and this Professor Zhao, just so you guys know where I'm getting this information from,
Mm-hmm.
that Pax Americana, which is the U.S., is going to shift over and decline in power. Their economic superiority is going to go away, and then Pax Judaica is going to take over because there's intelligence agency superiority, there is economic superiority, there is um, the canal that they're trying to build, the trade, the economic, the there's an inclination for them, a predisposition of them getting economic benefits from being where they're at in the
Mm-hmm.
Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
So what he sees is that the empire here is decaying really quickly, the American Empire, and that it's going to transition and give it over to Pax Judaica as the kind of the leading um, monetary power
Mm-hmm.
in the world reserve currency
Mm-hmm.
holder.
Well, interesting situations. What does this Doctor Zhao, or I forgot what his name is? He does he give like a timeline?
He says that him and a lot of others. So I've noticed that there are a lot of these very nuanced, like I have a nuanced understanding of geopolitics and economics. They don't care about the 3 to 4 year term. They're thinking about large, big picture numbers. So
Mm-hmm.
we're looking 10. He's looking 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to, you know, and what they've suggested, and this is a different reference here. What I'm about to talk about is that Donald Trump is actually not as powerful as people may think,
Mm-hmm.
and that he actually is not in a position of power because he's being watched directly by intelligence agencies, and he doesn't have absolute control over what the monetary, like the central bank was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what this lady's name is, but she's like renowned. She has very sharp oversight over like economically relating stuff, not necessarily political, but more economically based background. So she has like understanding of how economics play out in geopolitics.
Mm-hmm.
But what she says is basically that it's irrelevant. The next 3 years, what he's going to do is irrelevant. But uh, in the greater in from figuring out who's actually in power, there are people that we basically can't see. We will never hear about. They're actually moving the chess pieces in the background. And what she talks about is that there is a coalition of bankers that are going from an old banking system that's falling apart, all this debt, all these debt bubbles, and they're creating this new means of transacting.
Mm-hmm.
And what she goes into depth into is like technocratically run. So she thinks that a lot of these Silicon Valley people that have a lot of the money are going to actually possess the power, and that they're going to use all sorts of technology to enforce their regime.
Hmm. Well,
The
like,
conflict between
yeah,
islands.
I think I think I've heard arguments before. Obviously, I'm not
Yeah,
too familiar with this channel or the people you met, but obviously, smart people. They have their own ideas. The narrative of what they're presenting is, though, I don't agree with on technical stance. So nothing will
yeah,
probably last forever, right? So we can be very certain on that. But like the thing is, I always refrain to when anybody talks about the world reserve currency, outside of the power of being able to print money, it doesn't do anything else, right? It's if everybody trades in your currency, everybody needs your currency, right? So that's the benefit of having it. The the reason why I don't put too much knowledge into this space is, first of all, is because I don't hold any cash regardless. Like, I have Canadian dollar. I obviously have a USA trading accounts, USA stuff, USA stocks that are shown in USA currency. However, I don't think the currency thing makes too much of a difference. Here's the three. I'll give just two connotations about currency itself. So actually three. Let's do three, and I'm gonna try to make them very quickly so we can move on to the next topic. So,
yeah, yeah.
firstly, the world reserve currency, before the USD, the United States currency, which currency
The
held
British.
power? It was British. Do you know it was a decade after, from when the British Empire was clearly not superior to the USA Empire, to when the USA reserve currency became the reserve currency of the world. So it does not happen just because somebody has more firepower than you, a better military than you, a better economy than you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So it takes a whole bunch of time, and you got to understand, guys, how effective is your government? Nobody has ever said my government is very effective in any country that they're in. And so, if that's the case, you can imagine how much paperwork is involved. Paperwork is involved in the back end of figuring out one currency compared to the other currency. A lot of people and a lot of countries just use US currency just to make the ease of it. And so, let's say one country wants to switch to a different currency. It's not feasible unless everybody is going to do it all simultaneously, because obviously you're trading partners, and so you got to figure out what currency to trade it. Secondly, there is no actual real life like tradable currency in I'm talking about country wise that's better than USD at this moment. USD is obviously inflated like crazy, but so is every other currency. If we were talking about like the next superpower that could potentially be China, China's currency is even more garbage. That their currency is even more inflated than the USA. They consistently keep destroying their currency and falling. Like who is it right now? Iran, that's having all the protests right now because of inflation. Is it Iran? My apologies, or is it Iraq?
It's actually, yeah, it is Iran.
Okay,
Yeah,
Iran,
it is
yeah.
Iran.
So that's just like the most recent thing. So just like again, there's no thing. If thirdly, and this is my final position on this one, if the USD currency does get indifferent, because like you also have to understand, like, why did Russia or China agree to trade into USD? Like, why would they have agreed, right? And so the thing is, the only viable new currency that I could see happening would be something roughly like Bitcoin, right? Whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's not Bitcoin, but some type of currency that's outside of just one government control. Because I think like the new world order, as you mentioned, if it happens in this direction, would be to the fact that you would either try something completely different than doing this. Like we've heard of BRICS, obviously. So
Yes.
BRICS is a if you guys are unknown, it's a bunch of coalition of different types of governments in the world who are trying to create a currency that's backed by a physical element or by something exactly like, right now there's no real merit to it other than the name and the association that's there, and nothing has truly been done forward from this. But again, it's because of the whole fact that if you want to switch a currency, it's not just you that can just switch the currency. If you're like, I'm only doing a gold backed currency, great. If you got to trade with India, if you got to trade with Pakistan, if you got to trade with North Korea, like, how are you gonna, you gotta figure out exactly something that's
The
worth
reason,
value, right? Yeah,
like,
you could
what's the
also do gold,
reason?
right? You could also do gold,
That,
right? So it could have been gold as well. Like it was,
it was problematic. The reason
yes,
that Nixon went off the gold standard was because the bankers were greedy
yes.
and they wanted to reap the benefits of economics.
Exactly. And now you see that with quantitative easing and a whole bunch of different terminologies in finance that they're able to utilize to pretty much mask issues, or rectify issues as they show up, as we've clearly seen since 2020. And so, like, even the idea of
Exactly.
inflation or deflation,
Like how you
or
bring up
yeah,
COVID.
I don't think a lot of people realized what these terminologies are until actually COVID, right? And so myself included, right? Obviously, I was only 18 to 20, so economy bro Rav was not the most intelligent man in the entire world. I was learning at the same time as everybody else. And so, if I'm betting on what the next currency is, it's not a bet that I would do because I truly don't know. It could be anything. The only thing that I do know is, regardless of whatever currency it is, assets will remain the exact same. You could buy an asset in the amount of bananas, in the amount of apples, and it's just a quantity amount of how much quantity it takes to buy something. But as long as you have something worth value, you have something worth value. That's just what I got to say to that position. But again,
Exactly.
yeah, again, like the thing is, I think a lot of people, like, you know what, it's not a conversation a lot of people talk about, which is also a mistake, right? Because like I really hope people don't understand, but I'm not trying to downplay how much benefit the USA has by having the reserve currency of the world. It's so apparent that, remember, BRICS, I forgot exactly which countries are in it, but all these major big economies are trying to get off of that because they want to use a different currencies. So it's so effective that all of these countries are willing to spend time and money to try to make it happen.
But it no longer is a conversation of convenience.
Yeah.
It's a tactic of war.
Yeah,
It's
of course.
economic warfare.
Yeah, like I
And when
mentioned,
you,
yeah. Sorry, just like I was mentioning, just want to put that point out. Is I said to you is, why the hell would China or any of these countries agree to do
exactly,
their trade in a foreign currency, right?
you're exactly on money with what I mean by on money is your ideas are parallel with the lady. Her last name is Fitz.
Hmm.
I'm not sure why I can't get her full name here, but she's basically saying has the same argument.
Is she from the
What's
same
going,
YouTube channel? Sorry.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
What they do is they put on a bunch of these like Professor Zhao, people that are renowned, known by the
I see. It's not their direct channel. They just showcase.
it's just he's interviewing people
Yeah.
like that are of high efficacy standard. Of
Hmm.
they have nuanced, opinions on
Understanding of
the
certain
matter.
situations. Yeah.
They're very empiricized, very empiricized. But obviously, when you're dealing with constantly changing target, it's hard to predict the future. And that's that you're more than reasonable to suggest that maybe this is the wrong answer. But you know what they're suggesting about what's going to happen, and what they describe it as a multipolar world, which what they mean by is that instead of one globalized economy is going to be separated. But what you said was they're not going to come to an agreement of what to use if it becomes that divide. If it
Yeah.
becomes less globalized.
In
They
today's
can't come to
world,
an
I could
agreement.
not imagine that, right? I could not imagine somebody being like, "Oh, you know what? Let's just all trade in Canadian currency." Like why on earth would anybody come to that agreement, right? First, USA,
Yeah,
why would the USA ever want to not use their currency, right? And then China or any other country in the world who's like, man, I don't know why we're doing this. Foreign transaction. I'm not exactly referring to just regular foreign transaction fees, but obviously we're giving them business, right? If like a lot of people, if I
I
hold the
heard
bill,
that
yeah,
the Chinese currency. Sorry to cut you off.
yeah.
And this goes to reinforce your idea. What they're doing and what their situation is that they're export heavy.
Hmm.
But the problem is when you look at the margins of what they're exporting, they're really underbidding their dollar's
Of
value,
course,
their
yes.
currency value.
They make everybody reliant on them, right? That's the same reason why minerals became so dirt cheap under them as well, because they were very very good at manufacturing them. And so then companies decide, hey, why am I buying from my own country when it's cost me 3 times as much as just Canadian, right? Which makes no sense, right? Like roughly right now, a lot of people talk about BYOD, but people don't understand is, although it's a lot of it's financed by the actual Chinese government, right? So it is
Yeah,
technically a Chinese organization. A lot of people
yeah,
don't know is China themselves have told BYOD to relax, and what I mean by that is they're so much cheaper than the rest of the world, pretty much at this moment in time, that they're destroying their own car market in China as
exactly.
well. So
That is
Chinese EV makers
empiricized.
can't
Yeah.
even keep up with BYOD, right? So
I
and
didn't have
so
a direct example. That's a direct example. Yeah.
yeah. So and that just goes to it, right? So, but why do people go with BYOD? Like here's the thing, right? I don't know because I haven't looked at BYOD as a full company. I know Warren Buffett bought it, and that's how I put it on my radar.
Mhm.
But he bought it a while ago. He don't buy it recently, right? And so right now I wouldn't be buying BYOD just because of how I see the EV market going. But
It's
the
interesting. It's not on the S&P, is it?
it's no, it's not a Canadian company. It's not a USA company. My apologies. It's a
Yeah.
Chinese
Yeah.
company. So you have to buy it on the Chinese foreign exchange. So the China foreign
Interesting.
exchange, pretty much, right? And so
What is Berkshire Hathaway doing all the way there? I heard
Berkshire
that
Hathaway buys everything everywhere. They buy the top companies in the entire world, right? And so,
they read
but
the book before they take
yeah,
any.
like let me get this exact timing because this is not recent. This is so long. Let me show you. When did listen to this? Okay, he's such a in 2008. So in
All the way
2008,
back.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so he approximately paid $230 million for the initial stake. which he got 225 million shares, which was 10% of the company. Okay, and so you can imagine how much BYOD has made Warren Buffett rich. I'm talking about several tons of billions, right? And so there's a
But
lot of money that Warren Buffett made.
there's that argument. Well, they create all these concentration gradients. Like
Well,
what I
yeah,
mean by concentration gradients is
I'll tell you one portion. Sorry,
they
not to
do
cut you
some.
off, but like one thing like people might also be wondering when to watch this is like, okay, if they're so cheap that they're destroying their own economy, like in the car space, then then well, like how are they making money, right? Because they might make it so cheap that they're not making money. The thing is, when you're buying a BYOD car, you're gonna have to buy BYOD products, or somebody's gonna have to fix your car, right? And one thing I'd
Yeah.
like to say is you always hear about maintenance with Ford or any of these companies, but you don't hear a lot about maintenance with BYOD because the numbers aren't exactly accurate, in my opinion, to show you how much of the maintenance cost is. Yeah, there's no way in Earth, as you know, like literally Canada put 100% sanctions on EVs from China. USA did as well because their car companies could not compete. So what's the best way in order to make everybody reliant on your activity by underbidding and making sure that everybody's using your product?
They're out competing,
Yeah. Yeah, and
and
yeah,
that's how Walmart's. That's how like Professor Zhao again. He talks about uh, three ways to measure how geopolitics within the economic
hmm
sense. And he talks about like inside of a country, there is competition, and what happens is when we reach the boiling point, or the point where we destabilize, is a lot of people want to get into these positions of power, and they seek financial means first, and then they go lobby, and going for president requires funding and so on. But what he says is that like these companies inside the country will start to fight each other, and then and there's only it's like musical chairs, and there's only so many seats. And what happens is they start to want to expand and go further,
yeah,
and then
everywhere in the world.
yeah, like
Yeah,
those companies like BYD right now
yeah, yeah.
is like destroying everyone.
Like I
Like
told
even
you, right?
within
Even their own,
their jurisdiction,
yeah, yeah.
within their jurisdiction.
Exactly. Their own, like, right. If we're thinking about a solid, like, full EV company, what other EV company is left in the US that has not gone bankrupt? Outside of Tesla, which is transitioning more to an EV to robotics company, I would say like Lucid Motors. And I'm pretty sure they're going to get destroyed as well. The thing
Yeah,
is,
I've heard of it.
yeah, BYOD it's not a new company. It's so old. It's very old at this point in time, right? And like you probably seen the interview where Elon Musk was asked about, oh, are you afraid of BYD cars? And he's like, have you seen how they look? Right? He was making fun of them back in 2008, 2009, 2010, and now BYD a decade later is on the crisp of everything. But like I told you, you guys, everybody always remembers like when Tesla had their showcases in the malls. But when I went to the UK and I'm going into these big super malls, I see BYOD stations the exact same way, same sleek look, and they look just as good. And the cars look great. I just like I mentioned, I don't know what their maintenance is, and I'm guessing it's probably going to be knowing Chinese products. Obviously, on the high end, sometimes they're very good, but it may be good, it might not be great. Here's the question I have for you, Ahmed: are you going to buy a BYOD car if it comes to a retailer near you?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, you're going
time
right
money
to it.
back. I would get it to yield a profit right off rip, because it's
By
simple
the way,
math, right?
sorry
Like
guys, I'm just my knee is messed up, bro. My knee is so messed. So if I am grouching in pain, you know what? I just gotta move my leg around.
hope that gets better
Me too,
sooner.
buddy. Me too.
We do have conversations about the kinesiology and how to recover very quickly, but just so we stay on topic, stay on the subject that we're talking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
Your question was, would I buy it? I would definitely buy it, because I genuinely look at this situation as I don't need to working within my best interest here. I wouldn't care about what the companies that are dealing with, like the electric car companies within Canada. I would grab the car,
Is
yield
there
any
electric?
value.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'd go like rent it out,
yeah.
get an ROI going, because there's a market right here, and if you're able to kind of front run the masses, and get into position where you can yield a profit, and yeah, why not? That's the game. You got to play the game, right?
Yeah. The thing
Um,
is, I even like if
but
I'm
what I want
asked.
to talk
Sorry,
about,
continue. Yeah, yeah.
what I really want to talk about, is the thesis that I didn't really articulate as sharply as I should have, is that we're going into war, and it's going to be multi-area war. So when this great polarity shift happens between the left and right, like when globalization breaks down into the Western front and the Eastern superpowers, there's going to be an increase in a decrease of Chinese trade with the Western world. So like BYD will not be in the other markets anymore, and they won't be trading both ways. Trading will cut off. And what we'll see is a similar situation to what Russia's dealing with right now, because they got kicked off of SWIFT. SWIFT is a international. It's governed by everyone globally, the globalized community, Russia, whichever government is directly, and whoever breaks international law gets cut out of that trade. So it's like a wire transfer system for huge, huge money.
It's global
internationally.
wire transfer system, yeah, the biggest in the world.
Yes, global wire transfer system. And they cut out Russia. But Russia and Iran, from what I'm seeing right now, is and what is suggested in the narrative is they're trading in stablecoin. And someone like me, obviously, I lean towards the thesis that this is actually what's going to happen. They're going to destabilize the currency to absolute. They're going to make it worth nothing, the USD, on a unit value basis, but their economy will still survive. It's not like the U.S. is just going to all of a sudden their weapons are just going to disappear. That intrinsic value is going to remain. But what I look at when I'm looking at a reserve currency transfer is what the government is actually backing the dollar with. It used to be gold, then it's the petrodollar. And from what I heard from Professor Zhao's, expression, is that can that government enforce its laws under its jurisdiction? So like right now in Venezuela, they're seeing some like backlash. So people are they're going in trying to take over and they're struggling to enforce their laws. They're struggling to enforce, you know what I'm saying? Like laws and enforcing the laws is a nuanced process and it costs money. And your ability to enforce the law requires military strength, and their military strength is what the dollar's predicated on. And what he's saying is that this was the most, compared to all the other times the U.S. went to war, this was the most indicative of lack of focus or lack of thought process. They were sloppy. That's how he described it. And what I'm seeing, and what I think is going to happen, is that we're going to enter into a state of the economy is going to dip. And it's not going to dip all at once. It's not going to be a whole disaster, but the U.S. economy is going to start to decline, maybe even after Trump leaves office or whatever. But they're going to try and invade Canada. And right now on the news,
The USA, you're saying, is going to try to invade Canada? Is this what
yeah, what's
Professor
it
Zhao
called?
says, or you're something you think?
This is what Zhao was saying. This
Okay,
is
okay.
what the other people, not me. No, I mean I've looked at the news personally. I've seen like right now there's 1,000 people or more. Like all they need is petitions or signing petitions of some sort
Yeah,
to
yeah.
make
Right now,
Alberta.
there's a separation. A lot of people are. Well, it looks like a lot of people. We'll see what the actual numbers say, right? Well, so we gotta wait till numbers come out.
And what's sad is if you work within your best interest as a Canadian, you end up leaving the country because there's all sorts of problems that we've talked about. Like doctors here are just leaving to the States because it's a better ROI of their time money value. A lot of people have left Alberta. Have left the, what I mean, Canada to go abroad to see what economically is suitable for them.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say here is that if war continues to increase, we're going to see governments polarize, and they're going to use the stablecoin rails,
Yeah.
just like Russia's doing.
Yeah, well, I don't know, I think, too much about Russia and exactly if they're using stablecoins or not. But like again, it's they're trading in something, right? So who knows what it is? Because the ruble by
I think
itself,
India was helping them.
yeah,
India
you
was
know,
buying their oil or something, or China was buying their
yeah,
oil.
yeah. Well, a lot of countries were. I'm sure a lot of other countries were buying also their oil as well. Because obviously, here's
Yeah.
just if you work in your best interest as a country, one way to get really cheap oil is by, again, unfortunately, buying it from the person who sells it the cheapest. And so that's what I'm always saying about value, though, right? If you have
Yeah.
an asset worth value, people are still paying for it, regardless if you're in the wrong or right? And so
They
people
don't
are still
care.
buying it. China was buying it, and again,
Yeah.
like who knows what's actually going on, right? So Canada could be buying it for all I know. But again, very very interesting thesis. Again, there's some points I agree with, some points I disagree with. I do have a question for you though.
Yeah.
Mark Harney. All right, now let's focus on Canada. Okay, Mark Harney is going over to China very soon. I believe in the next 2 weeks, right? And so there's a lot of restrictions against our farmers right now for China, which is destroying the economy here in the farmers market. Not fully, but obviously people are getting affected. To grow these crops, it takes many months, and then to be able to grow these crops and now to sell them and nobody's buying is a very difficult task, right? So my question is, China has told Canada, lift your EV restrictions on our EVs, and then we will lift our restrictions as well, right? So right now Canada is the invading for the restrictions on this portion, and so there's a clear contract. You get rid of our restrictions, you get rid of your restrictions, right? And so, do you think that there's a feasibility that Mark Carney might actually agree to lift these tariffs? And guys, one thing I want everyone to understand, right? This is a concept I think about this morning. As I was just listening to the news this morning, I really when he was going to China, when he was it was said he was going to go to China, I was very very interested in thinking about this. But guys, there is no way in hell's goddamn earth that the USA is going to be happy with that trade. They're going to be so unhappy. They're going to be clearly pissed off. They don't want more relationships with China, especially from Canada's side, right? But obviously, in the last year, we've seen that obviously the USA has been more contradictory towards Canada, and so now there is a little bit of a clash, right? And so, knowing if you were Mark Carney, okay, this is what I want to ask you. Knowing that the USMA trade deal is happening this year, and right now, as of right now, it looks like it will continue. It maybe has some sort of changes, as President Trump said. Would you risk doing something this drastic so that you could lower the amount of things here? Because let's talk about the benefits. There's benefits to this, and there's not benefits. I'm gonna just give a quick 2-minute recap, and then I'll let you make your decision. Okay? Because I'm very interested to know, because you may think of this completely outside. If we lift tariffs, Canadians will most likely get a substantially cheaper car. That is going to mean that everybody here is most likely going to be driving EVs of some sort. Right now, obviously, we know EVs in the Canadian winters are going to be a little rough, but when the person has a budget, they're trying to get the best bang for their buck. All right, and the Chinese EVs are clearly the better bang for their buck at this moment in time. So they clearly get way cheaper electronics, way cheaper stuff. They might even tell them to unban Huawei, so you might get even cheaper phones. You get your own chips. Huawei's trying to do a couple of things over there. It's a big company in China.
Yeah, I actually like Huawei.
Yeah. For Canada, now we get to sell more, exports to China. We may even get to sell our oil to China. You never know what's going to happen there, right? And so, but now the bad side, USA is probably going to try to destroy this deal, try to destroy Canada in this case, because they do not want Chinese products such as Huawei. Whatever they say, whether they're going to say it's going to be listening devices or their 5G capabilities or the new G, whatever it is, capabilities, and they don't want it so close to their border. So they're either going to try to intervene, maybe even invade, you never know. And so that's a big issue, right? The secondary issue is if those Chinese companies come, Ontario's screwed. Because Ontario, right now, obviously, they're getting destroyed by Trump because obviously they're not trying to get their product.
They've already pivoted. They went into the States, and a lot of these car manufacturers.
Exactly. But here's the thing. This would destroy the economy even more.
It would absolutely flatten.
Because now no one in Canada will be buying their own products. So that's a big issue, right? So there's many positives. There's many issues. So what would you do?
The best. And so what you're saying makes sense, and anyone with logical discernment would understand that. Hey, you're going to flatten the car manufacturing.
And I'm just going to say it. If a big trade deal happens with China and Carney, I'm gonna tell you this right now. No Usman agreement will be honored. 100.
So I will tell you yeah, I know what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Like it's gonna come directly into logical conflict with what's the Usman agreements, right, between the U.S. and. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you from what I understand. The pre-logic is during the tariff war that happened recently, and they turned it on and off, and the market went up and down. A lot of volatility. China has been known to try and meet up with different. Even in Venezuela, they're active. They're actively trading. They have the most ports on Africa. They are economically based. Militarily, they're economically very, very conscientious, and they tried to, I think, blackmail or trying. They're trying to get leverage through trade partnerships to win the tariff war against the U.S. Mm-hmm. And this happened during the last, conflict that we saw in the news, tariff war. And this will continue to happen as Trump starts to squeeze Canada. Canada is going to start to take those trades. And we talked about this in prior podcasts where they've went to manufacture, I think, military. What are those things that go underwater? I forget. They went to
Subs?
Korea.
Subs.
You
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
about
yeah, yeah. Nuclear
yeah,
subs.
the submarines. So I think that there's a lot of conflicted thought, and I can't give you a clear and cut answer because, from what I understood, Carney, and I don't see the government as something that necessarily always works within the public's interest. And I have further evidence to suggest this from this Professor Fitz lady, and what she talked about was that and this is what Professor Zhao talks about, there are conflicted views within government. There's, you know what I mean? You know how the liberals and the conservatives have
Yeah, yeah.
different
There's always fights in
views,
governments. That's why nothing gets passed.
and they will economically fight each other for contracts that are within Canada's borders and outside of Canada's borders. And when they work within their best interest, it actually does not parallel working within the best interest of Canada. I don't think that the government always pans out within the best interest of the people that live under it. And that what Fitz actually showed is during the Iraq War era, two different U.S. based institutions, the CIA and the Department of Defense, were actually fighting each other for contracts within for Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
So what I see is that Trump is not really in power,
Mm-hmm.
and that there are people that have their own personal interests and power, monetary power, to push those personal interests that come into conflict with um, these theses. Because the predication that what you're predicating is that China is this one entity that's going to make a deal with this other entity called Canada, and it's going to influence America. But if you look at things even in more depth, you find that Carney has connections with Trump in prior business dealings,
Mm-hmm.
and Carney works within his own best interest. And the last president, the last prime minister, sorry, Justin Trudeau, was only paid $400,000 a year. He has like a $90 million net worth. Someone like
190
me
million.
asked me this question,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, like a huge number, right? 190 million. Like, how are you going to accumulate that kind of wealth when? And I'm not going to assume that Canada is working within the best interest of its people. I will never assume that. I'm always going to interpret that there are different powers within governments that are fighting each other directly within Canada. There's different powers that are fighting each other for these economically beneficial
Contracts,
contracts.
goals. Yeah, I get what you're saying. So
Even
what would you do? What would you honestly do, Ahmed? What would you do? Would you take a deal with China to better strengthen your relationship with China, or would you back off? I'll tell you what I'll do right after though. I do have a strategy. Okay, always come with a
works.
strategy.
You've highlighted two things that are in conflict,
Mm-hmm.
and I like your question, but the question is way more nuanced than I have ability to answer. You said that it would shut down our manufacturing, car manufacturing.
Yeah, well,
From a value
completely destroyed.
proposition,
There'll be nothing. There'll be nothing left.
we need to stimulate. We need partnerships like the huge Chinese economy
Mm-hmm.
to come in. But is it when you do an empiricism analysis, the net money inflow, is it better than the car industry that we have?
You
If it is, take the deal.
and you ask a very good question there, right? And the question is, there's many different things, right? BYOD, you could make relationships that, hey, BYOD has to be made in Canada, but you probably couldn't because how the hell do you make it so cheap when you have unions? Like what you think there's a union in China for BYOD?
Like the patent laws, the patent
Yeah, yeah.
laws.
The patent laws won't be up.
Imagine there's two different subsets of law, and you guys are going to trade with each other. Patent laws are not respected in China. Patent laws are respected in Canada. They cost money.
Mm-hmm.
You talk to me
A lot
about
of money.
this.
A lot of money.
How big is those patents? Like, that's so disruptive. There's so many things that come into the mix. I can't put a ticker on. I can't.
Okay, so would you make a deal or no deal with China?
We're a tiny economy. America's showing kind of going salty on us. I would take it only when it benefits us in the net, when we really sit down and calculate it, not like a 1 minute question, 1 minute answer.
I think that's
You
the
have to
only
sit
answer.
down
But
and look at the
just in
numbers.
case Mark Carney is one of our 4 viewers, all right, guys. So thank you
I
for
think we
tuning in.
should stay with America.
Yeah,
I think
so-
we should stay with America.
Okay.
Why? Why do you think?
Okay, I completely no, I'm joking. I completely agree with you as well, and I'll tell you why my. So you went
You're
to the exact
pro-America.
same ideology that I went to, and this is what I would say. For obviously, this is what I would do. The thing is, China themselves has a good relationship with the USA as well in terms of different types of trade. Obviously, they throw sanctions against each other, tariffs.
It's-
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's still a lot of trade that goes between there. Like, how many people do you think in USA use Temu or stuff like that? A lot, right? A lot. So here's the question I have for you. Exactly. It was so big that Amazon created their own version of it, right? Where you get super cheap products, just not Amazon, price, delivery, all that fun stuff.
That TikTok acquisition, right?
Exactly. And so here's the question, guys. So this is exactly what I would do as a Canadian, if I was Mark Carney. So Mark Carney, listen up, all right? This is my game plan, okay? What I would do is, first, I would go to China. I would say, "Hey, we'd love to make deals with you because we're a very global economy and we want to make deals with you. You guys are obviously very powerful. You have to kiss up a little bit, all right? You got to do a little bit of flirtatious, but just like how you're gonna try to woo a woman, okay? Now this is a tip for you guys, all right? You got to woo both of them, all right? You got to see who truly deserves you, okay? There's one thing we can never change as Canada. The border that we have with America, we cannot change. It is the worst, absolutely worst idea to have a very, very bad relationship with a superpower that's 10 times, 20, 30, 40 times your size, that could, literally has the firepower of the sun, right next to you, right? So you do not want that. You want overflow. You want, love and amazing stuff to come from that side. You don't want the other way. So first thing you're going to do is, you're going to try to acquisition all these deals, okay? Then what you're going to do is you're going to go to the USA. You're going to go to the USA.
Please let me say this for
Uh-huh.
So what you're showing the viewer is that it's either you get nuked in 2 minutes because the travel time from the US, or you get nuked in like 15 minutes.
Exactly, because of the global. So then the next thing you do is you make an appointment with Trump, all right? You're going to come with Trump, Mark Carney, all right? You're going to bring your playbook. You'll be like, Trump, you have done fantastic with your economy. We obviously want the USA to benefit Canada and want Canada to benefit the USA. This is what China is offering us. These are the deals. I, out of respect for your presidency, for the United States of America, are going to bring you these deals. And I will, if something is super against you, where it's a conflict of interest for yourself, and something that scares you, I am not going to do it, out of respect for our relationship.
But I'll tell you why.
Wait, listen. But I wanna make sure if we're not doing this deal there, we're gonna get some sort of deal here in USA. The thing is that Canada doesn't have. Here's the thing. I want you to listen to this. All right, this is my opinion. All right, this might be my opinion. Yeah, Canada does not have any cards on the table at this moment in time against Trump. Trump has all the cards, right? Exactly. So what do you have? So how do you equalize the situation? You create exactly. You can, and you can create that by having incentives with other countries for your stuff, for their stuff that USA does not want on their side, and now you have some cards against them. Obviously, the USA, I'm going to tell you guys, is not going to conquer Canada.
They've killed us, man. They've absolutely destroyed us with the tariffs.
They do,
man.
But China is actively wanting a deal with Canada. But we are not reciprocating. So if it looks like we're reciprocating, here's the question: have you ever heard of the thing that an enemy of my enemy is my friend? Okay, if you don't look at Canada and the US as context of brothers and brothers, like they're completely different, they're countries not to come. Canada, USA does not want Huawei does not want any of the Chinese big manufacturers in Canada or anywhere in America. They're actively fighting off the what is it, BYOD, or the Chinese companies in Mexico, because remember, Mexico does have BYOD, and what does the USA do? They do not like it. They don't want the manufacturing there, right? And so what I'm trying to tell you is, Mark Carney, we got to get some cards.
You have to mention this. Trump has literally just been if you go watch videos,
I'll tell you something. Quote me on this. Quote me on this. All right, are you ready to quote me?
Yes.
When the USMA agreements come up for renewal, if the USA is still technically in charge of Venezuela, right, as they say they are, Trump himself, whether it's true or not, is going to tell Canada, we don't need your oil. It will be 100% brought up, whether it's true or not. And this is going to happen.
Alberta should. When you're playing poker. It's a game of negotiation.
Exactly. But if you have no cards, you can't play poker. You just watch everybody else winning money, and you're going to be losing money.
It comes down to the boiling point of when you do all these calculations, the easiest thing you could do is find the first thing that breaks, the weakest component.
Mm-hmm.
Our military is not as powerful.
But here's the question. You don't. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to bring this part because that's actually a very important part. Our military is very insignificant compared to the USA. But here's the question: do you know who's not? China. Do you think that the USA wants us to make exactly? They have a really good military. That's what I'm saying. But do you know how many Canadian air bases? Do you know how many Canadian bases are all around the world? Just listen to my point. Then you can find a rebuttal. Okay. If Canada has insanely good ties with USA, do you not think that China? Do you not think that we can make a contract where Chinese bases are also in Canada? You could have Chinese weaponry. Do you think the
Yeah, just
USA
like the
wants
Cold
this?
War, Colombia,
Exactly,
Colombia and
exactly. The USA does not want this. So does Trump. But these are
Red
cards that
Eye.
you're able to play. Now, are these the most effective cards? If from where I'm sitting, yes, if I'm looking at this at an outside situation, okay, the only way for you to reasonably reason and have good trade negotiations with the USA in a position of power is by being in a position of power. But by sitting on the outline where you're just waiting to see, like at this moment in time, Trump is kind of just like, you're going to do this or you're going to do this. That's the only option we have. We have no other thing. We cannot sell any of our stuff. We have not exported our oil or any of our other lumber.
Yeah, I never thought about this freaking problem, but think about it. Ray Dalio talks about this.
Yes.
The 5 steps before economy flips over and dies a new superpower. Which is one of the steps is tariff wars, and then and before the tariff wars, economic warfare. They pull out of their so America used to have an outpost in Afghanistan, and they left. They ran away. And Ray Dalio watched through history, not just the U.S. economy, the Dutch economies. Throughout history, he studied this, and he found that on the way down, on the way from the max peak point of an economy, on the way down, the government started to pull out their troops. And I put a check mark when Biden told them to get the hell out of there. You know what I mean? And they stopped making money on the opium trade that they were doing there. As soon as they left Afghanistan, opium crops they died because there was no one buying them anymore. The Americans are the clearest indication that they're buying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Right now, if you're playing a game, right, you have limited resources, you have limited economic bandwidth that you could push through your military industrial complex and then enforce your laws, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole situation. If I'm China, I'm economically dying. I'm buying oil on the Russian front to support Russia. And I'm exporting with BYD. Like, I'm producing the prices to dirt cheap. I'm losing my purchasing power.
Yeah.
Am I going to stretch over the damn sea?
Yes,
to go to Canada.
I'll tell you why.
When Taiwan is checkmate, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the weakest point.
No, but
AI.
Ahmed, I'll tell you.
They take over Taiwan.
That's completely false. I'll tell you why. Because
why Canada?
Because here's the reason. All right, where are the major port? Okay, here's the reason. The Venezuela clearly supplied China. Russia clearly supplied China with oil. The Canada, I'm telling you, one of the parts of this deal is going to be Canadian oil. This is why everybody, I know people think that the oil pipeline is coming, that it's not coming. I'll tell you, I do think an oil pipeline will happen because they're going to have to if they're trying to make trade deal relationships with China or with any other country in the world. The thing is, China has a lot of money. Obviously, they have a lot of money. They have a lot of population. There is positions of power. There's positions of showing that you have power. One of the best ways to show somebody a power is by making their best friend, making their neighbor your really good friend. And now the country that's underneath us is like a little stressed out. Like, hey, wait a second. Exactly. They're like, hey, wait a second. How close is for all of time, since obviously the Americans and Canadians.
What's the cost?
Exactly. The cost is you're going to destroy your relationship with the USA. And that's exactly what the USA does not want. They don't want Canada not having a relationship with the USA. Huh?
I mean, you've seen them. Look, man, they don't look. Canada and Venezuela, in my opinion, are somewhat relative in comparison to the U.S. military.
Of course, I think if our boy wanted, Mark Carney would be gone tomorrow. But again, the whole option is this. Okay,
there was new weaponry, brother.
Of course, there's weaponry all
over the
place.
You hear about the new weaponry that was used in Venezuela?
These
guys were bleeding out of their noses and their heads. They didn't even know it was coming.
All right, but listen, Ahmed, what I'm trying to explain is this is exactly the thing.
I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you, just to put the sugar coating. Maduro, the Venezuela president,
Prime Minister, yes, or president.
Nike.
Yeah, he was decked out in Nike, bro. The guy looked more stylish than I do. You know what I'm saying? As being arrested. But that's what I'm saying. The government. I know, but think about it for national intelligence, okay? National intelligence.
He goes into Venezuela. Picks them up.
Here's the question. I'll tell you. Do you know what right now a big talk is right now between the US and Canada? It's that the Canada has an option right now to buy the Swedish the Swedish jets versus the American jets, right? And Sweden's giving us a way better deal. They're saying we'll open up manufacturing here so you guys can build them yourselves, which gives us jobs. The USA is not providing us that. right?
So you think if we turn the tide, not only with China, but we start to trade with everyone,
Mhm.
and we get into the situation where we're an economic unit,
Yeah.
and not only
Well,
economic,
here's the
we have
question:
the backing of the
How
Chinese
did
military.
Singapore go from being a failed British trading post in 60 years to becoming a really relevant first world country? The reason why is exporting. So Canada can export stuff as well, but obviously that was not what we have been doing. But here's the thing: making trade agreements and deals is the best way to do it. Obviously, with
We
different
sell our
countries.
oil so cheap.
Yeah, exactly. And only
We
to
sell our oil so cheap.
one person, Russia, the USA. Now, obviously, if we're diversifying our trade and no longer super reliant on the USA, we're able to make more of these deals overseas to get better and better ROIs on our money. But I'm telling you for a fact, USA does not want any matter of intelligence issues in Canada because Canada and the USA are very reliant on each other. It may not seem so
Yeah,
on the surface, but the land is
the-
most
the
important.
part- you're saying that they're so not only because
See,
of the
here's
land
one other thing. I'm gonna say one other
connection
thing
of
before
land.
you make your tool. All right,
So
right now, the USA is literally saying we're trying to take over Greenland, however they want to take it, because they're trying to make sure that the ocean. All right, Canada's right here. They're over here. Alaska obviously is right next to us. They are so certain that the Russia has issue is going to be trying to take over that part. Obviously, sorry,
like
that's what they're
Alaska
saying.
back. I heard
No,
the
no,
Russians sold
not
Alaska
Alaska
for like
back, but they're trying to invade those
21
waters. They're trying to invade those
million.
waters. These guys are literally saying for national security. So now let's bypass Greenland and let's go straight to Canada with Chinese economy, with Chinese stuff. I'm not saying to do this, but this is how you get cards to play. Hey, we have this offer here. We don't want to take this offer. We want to do trade with you. So you need to give us a better offer as well, Trump, right? But this is how you have cards. You can't sit there on the playground and not play with any of their toys, okay? If you're sitting on the playground, but you're not on the playground, you're sitting on the grass, guess what? You're not being able to play on the playground, all right? If Trump is on the top of the swing, I know this is a very weird analogy, but you got to be swinging next to the guy to be able to make a major deal.
You're gonna shake Trump's hand instead of the.
I'll do it. Send me as the negotiator. I got you. Right? But obviously, like, there's a portion of respect. You're not doing stuff behind their back, but you need to tell, like, do you know how you reason with the powerful person? You reason with them on the same level that you're trying to do what's best interest for yourself, but you're trying to make a deal here. Now,
You've
when
watched the Netflix
you don't go
documentary.
you don't go with
Trump.
ego. Yeah, you don't go with ego.
Trump is a master
Yeah.
negotiator.
Let me ask you what happened during Ontario's power issue. Do you remember what? Remember they increased their tariffs on EV on a bunch of stuff. And what did Ontario Doug Ford what the premier said? What did he do? He said we're gonna stop supplying all of the electricity to the homes in the USA that we're supplying, and they're supplying 2 million plus homes. Do you know what Trump said? Trump and him went back and forth, and then Trump wrote on Truth Social, real word from word, a very powerful man. He literally, the first thing he said is he goaded this guy up, because that's what it is. It's not an ego trip. It's you respect up somebody who's willing to do it for their own cause, but your cause as well, right? Trump said, what is it, Doug Ford? I'm not saying Doug Ford is correct on every situation, because he's definitely not. I disagree with him quite a bit, but he literally his situation in this regard was, hey, I don't want to turn off the power. We love supplying energy to you guys. You guys are our neighbors, our friends, our families. But guess what? We're being treated very unfairly, so we have to retaliate. And Trump, after making a decent deal with them where they didn't turn off their lights, was at the end, applauded the guy. And that's how you reason. You don't reason by saying by saying, "Oh, I don't care," or "Who cares?"
Get
or
rid of Carney. Carney's been giving us the boot.
We don't know, right? Like you said, he's traded with Trump in the past as well, right?
I want to see your thing. You objectively agreed in prior podcasts
Yes.
that this Carney guy has given he put that oil and gas pipe from BC to the US.
Mm-hmm.
Those jobs are not Canadian jobs, and the oil being refined in America and sold back to us.
Really bad. Really bad.
So we're on the downside.
Yeah,
the uranium deal we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
He's fumbling the uranium deal.
But these are all deals.
And then you have this rando, this non-prime minister, Doug Ford, stands firm. Now that I see Doug Ford should be negotiating on behalf of Canada.
No, he shouldn't, because Doug Ford is
What's Carney doing?
Here's the thing, Ahmed. Like I told you can't judge a man based on what he does today. You need to look at the 5-year track record. You need to look at what's gonna happen, right? like I told you,
what's wrong with
we can talk today and we can say, hey, but Ahmed, right now all the problems you're bringing up is not Carney, it's prior administrations. Like I told you, I'm not a liberal nor am I a conservative. I'm literally independent. If you want to big one, not NDP, nothing. I look at the factual stuff to see who's good. I was very much big fan in the Stephen Harper era. Obviously, that's when I was a child, right? So I remember very good moments of the economy in that regard. But I also ask my parents, I ask other people. Like I mentioned in the podcast before, every time I talk to an immigrant who came during that roughly time where Stephen Harper was prime minister, all right, first thing they say is, I hate that guy. That guy's immigration policy made it so hard for me to become a Canadian. The next thing they say is, but his policy was really, really good. Canada was very good when he was in power, right? Because he was tough on a lot of crime, he was tough on a lot of stuff, and he was a very good negotiator. Now, all of these stuff, when we're talking about back and forth, all these deals were bad for Canada, right? So we have to look at it and be like, hey, these deals were bad for Canada. But why did we do it? We did it to develop a relationship with the USA. But guess what? Sometimes, you know how people take advantage of you? People also take advantage of Canada. And obviously, every 4 years, there's going to be relatively a new president in the USA. They're not going to remember what happened 30, 40 years ago. They're remembering what's happening today and their policy. They want to be known for their policy, not for what happened there. So you need to redefine whether you sell USA oil for cheap. That's okay. You can continue to do that as long as we're going to get something in return. For example, exporting car materials, stuff like that. Canada is in a negotiating power. They just don't have a really good negotiating deck. They have a decent deck. And obviously the USA, I told you, during the USMA compliance deals, the USA is going to tell Canada repeatedly, we don't need your oil. We don't need your oil. We don't need your oil. And that's what's going to happen. Even though it's not true, like I mentioned in the last podcast, I told you guys why Canada oil is going to be superior to Venezuela oil, no matter, even if the USA is getting it for free, because there's still cost involved. But Canada is giving them such a great deal. But in order for us to give them a deal, they need to give us something in return. And again, sometimes you have to remind people. So Canada isn't a negotiating card, but you have to make yourself a better negotiator. USA, again, my policy is this: USA does not want foreign adversaries in their vicinity. In Canada is in their vicinity. They want to make sure that Canada is well prepared as well. He has said this numerous times as well, because he said,
"This is what I genuinely think."
Yeah.
I know all this notionality is optimism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing optimistic.
You want me to what is it, negotiate on behalf of Canada? I got you. Don't you worry.
100%. We need someone like you at the.
A hand for you, buddy. We'll go together, okay?
The problem at hand is there's a lot of powers that we talked about earlier that coexist within each entity, America, US, and what they're doing, according to the Fitz lady, is a controlled demolition of the US economy, and I can't but give my ear to her and listen to what she has to say, because it's profound. She said that you don't listen to, logically, you don't listen to someone's words. You watch their actions. Their actions actually, when you're playing poker, you don't really care what they're going to say. Yeah, well, I have the best cards. Yeah. What they actually end up doing is what's important.
And that's exactly what I'm telling you. But you just proved my argument with that position, because
Trump is
how much was said about all that stuff, and then what happened at the end with the Doug Ford situation, right? He ended up complimenting that.
There's two conflicting views, and I think that they might actually be, they don't necessarily conflict at the same time. I know it sounds illogical, but Trump wants to increase his reputation. He wants
he wants to be known as being the greatest probably president in history.
There's two ways you could lose money, right? Invest in the stock market, 2008 crash, boom. But there's another way you could lose money. I mean, value.
Leverage yourself to death.
If you're not invested and it goes up and right, and you have nothing but your liquidity, and stock market leaves you behind. Now you're priced out. You're screwed in a different way. I think it's not going to be a 2008 crash. And I agree with her, because she says that if you watch Donald Trump's actions, him and his kids, they're long Bitcoin.
Yeah, of course. They're long everything. They're leveraging everything.
They're long Bitcoin, you're short the USD. So he's going to destroy the dollar. That's what she's saying. A controlled demolition.
Yeah.
They're going to demolish. And the thing is, man, there are cryptocurrencies that are so good at stable coins.
But Ahmed, I'll tell you this.
That are partnered with NVIDIA. You know NVIDIA?
Yeah.
So, I told you that there's entities that work within the best interest of America, and then there's entities that don't work. The entities that don't work within the best interest of America, they work within the best interest of themselves, have given us evidence, substantial evidence, Larry Ellison has put $250 million into an architecture firm that looks at tokenized assets. Tokenized assets, just to jog people's memory, is like a house. It's a token, and it requires stablecoin legislation, which Trump put in as soon as he got into power. He pushed stablecoins. The argument I said earlier that Russia and these other entities are using stablecoins more and more is there's what she articulated. And you're talking from a position of economies are going to flourish. Canada has to make deals with America and vice versa with China. But what I think is that they're going to destroy the middle. They're going to actually wage war not against Canada or America or China. They're going to wage war on their middle class.
Okay, here I'll say this. So you bring up great points, and obviously we have to end the podcast very shortly. So I'm going to give my one rebuttal to you. Okay? I'm going to give you my one rebuttal, okay? Because we're at 55 minutes. So fantastic. I appreciate everybody who tuned along. Today we got some good viewership. We got up to 6, so steps up in the right direction. So we'll see on YouTube how good this does. But yeah, all right. So this is my one feasibility. If I'm looking at this purely logical to you, okay? I don't think any of that's going to happen. I'll explain why. I do believe the USD will probably turn into a stablecoin itself, however they choose to do that. But I'll tell you something. Trump, in my humble opinion, cares more about legacy than he does anything else at this moment in time. I'll tell you why. Just 3 things, all right? I always do 3 things. I always give 3 reasons. Firstly, he himself, when the stock market was going down, in just recent time, a couple of months ago, what did he say? This is a great time to buy. This is a great buying opportunity. He pushed the stock market up, and he's going to keep doing this. Why? In his first prime ministercy, he said the stock market's going to crash if Hillary Clinton wins. He cares really about what his image is. By the end of his presidency in the next 4 years, and this is why I'm still invested, guys, in the stock market, I'm not stressed, is he will do anything and everything to make it look like, whether it's true or not, I'm not saying that the entire economy is fantastic. The job reports come out. Exactly. So if the stock market is fucking zero.
We both agree.
Listen. That's one of them. So it doesn't matter. He, like Bitcoin, anything, right? The reason why he's pro this is he is just trying to make himself the legacy man. The second thing I'm going to tell you is you got to think more than Donald Trump. What do you think is next for the Trump family once his presidency is done? Do you think they're done? They're done? They've saved America? Of course not. They have many kids, many grandkids.
They're the only guy.
Exactly. And he wants to now be the famous Kennedy last name is going to be the Trump last name. I'm telling you right now, Donald Trump Jr. will probably, again, he's been asked many times, because of course I watch everything, guys. I try to look at it as much as I can. He may or may not go for presidency. He said it depends if the country needs me. Obviously Trump's youngest son clearly looks like he has ambitions on that. He also looks like he's doing a lot of fraudulent trading. We'll see exactly what's going on. We'll see exactly how rich this guy gets, right? But the Trump last name, he doesn't want associated with a bad stock market, a bad trading market, or anything like this. He's literally doing anything to showcase that he is the best of the best. Anytime the stock market's dropped, never in history has any president ever said, stock market down, guys, time for buying. I'm buying my ETFs today. They're just doing it. So there's so much money going into this stuff. And so that's why I just physically kind of agree. And so if he loses the reserve status currency, that single-handedly will destroy the Trump name. I will tell you that for a fact. And he does not want that. He does care.
What do you mean destroy the Trump name? His name has been slandered.
No. Yes, but how many people also love him? Like, you got to look at this in a thing, right?
He has like a cult following, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And his whole persona now at this point in time, again, like I said, whether you agree he's a good guy, whether you agree he's a bad guy, that's not what I'm debating here. What I'm telling you is he is literally going to make it look. I'm telling you the fact that he's going to say best stock market ever. Best Bitcoin run ever.
It will look like that, but the value.
But here's Ahmed, and the last point. Okay, last position. Actually, let me turn away my last position. All right, let's keep you guys in anticipation. I do want to hear your final point on this so that we can finish the video.
Yeah, we have limited time.
Yeah, unfortunately, I could go on this all day, but yeah, continue.
So, I don't agree with Karl Marx's interpretation of the capitalism at its end phase, it completely, but he does say something of value. He talks about the separation of rich and poor, where the rich start to occupy more. So he will go up and right. The economy will be amazing, but to whose benefit?
The people who own the assets.
Exactly. Who? So
but,
he has
one thing. I don't agree with you on the notion that you're putting on. But I do agree with you as well. It's definitely the wealth wide will go higher. As the richest person in the world gets richer, and many people follow that trajectory, the poorest man also gets poorer. It is
Unfortunately.
Canada had the strongest middle class in all during Stephen Harper's reign. That's why so many people are in love with that single H. That's why you could say good and bad about it. But at this moment in time, it's very different. The notion that I just want to disagree with you real quickly on this exact interpretation is majority of Americans at this point in time and Canadians actually have investation in the stock market through
Yeah.
RRSP and Roth IRAs. So I just want to put that on
Yeah.
there. So majority of people are on that wealth gap. Yes.
So Donald Trump did a couple things that you need to be paying attention to. His coin that he released, World Liberty Financial, it deals with stable coins. He is setting up because he knows something's insider. Because stable coins are going to be printed like crazy, and the transaction fees are going to go through the roof. What I'm trying to focus in on here is the political scheme is not something that is of primary importance when it comes to understanding geopolitics. It's more the monetary, the financial beasts, the Googles. During the .com bubble, Silicon Valley possessed more power than the government. Would you agree or disagree?
Disagree, but they had a lot of power. Yes.
You can skew what they found is that you could actually control that. If you have the data sets, you have a lot of power. Data is power. And
Agreed.
if you can fund a campaign better than someone else, you're going to have a large probability of getting the person you want into power. And here's the thing: politicians tell you something and then they lie, and then they actually work within the best interest of people, the people that they promised before they got into power. Trump was bailed out a long time ago. Remember?
Yes.
He was bailed out, and the details are not known to the public. The reason that is because the politicians don't hold the true power. There are people that have intrinsic power, the real power, and what they do is they acquire the true currency. The true currency is attention. TikTok, YouTube, whatever you watch is actually more valuable. The public narrative is actually more valuable than currency itself, because if you could control the narrative, you could control the masses. You could basically have the data on everyone and where they're going to invest, why they're going to invest. You're basically 1 second in the future, and everyone else is in. So the ultimate power is usually control over narrative, and Silicon Valley. It's usually tech based.
Well, guys,
and
listen.
What the tech giants are saying, and what Donald Trump's actions are showing, is that he's going to absolutely shit on the U.S. dollar's intrinsic value, shoot it up and right. And he's going to shift the new economy. The old economy is the fiat currency system. He's going to shift it into stablecoins, and cryptocurrency is going to be the means of the new empire.
Well, guys, listen. You've heard both of our arguments here. Here, I'll let you finish. But I think we gotta end very quickly.
Thank you guys for watching.
As you can see, me and Ahmed can go with this forever, and this is amazing. But we really appreciate anybody who stuck us out. Again, we had 6 viewers at all for majority of the episode. So thank you very much, guys. We really appreciate it. And yeah, again, like you've heard both the arguments. Let's see how this plays out, guys. But again, words, I just want to say final words for myself. I completely agree with the notion that the US will adopt some sort of stablecoin, but it's going to have intrinsic value with the USD. I don't believe it's going anywhere else. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, it's pegged.
Yeah,
but they're going to print way more.
Yeah, of course. It ain't going to be something like Bitcoin. It's going to be something you can printable, because they've tried gold money, and there's a lot of issues with gold money. There's also a lot of issues with not gold money as well. But guys, thank you very much for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and we will be back here very shortly. Final word. Okay, continue. Say your final words.
What scares me is when Carney got into power, his right-hand woman said, "Let's make Canada poor."
She did,
and I listened.
Unfortunately,
I listened very closely.
Mistake in my opinion, but Ahmed thinks there's something to this.
I think that I don't want to peddle fear, and fear kind of garners attention on YouTube. Yeah. Just to be transparent here with our viewers, we really want to give you good value propositions, but I think much like our ex-vice president is shooting like a firework. You guys know what happens to fireworks. They blow up and they never come back. They go bang. We might be dealing.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. God bless everybody to watch. I appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye-bye.